Today we're going to have a look at getting some images from Photoshop, taking them to After Effects and seeing if we can apply some really cool stuff. So over here I'm just switching over to Photoshop. I've got a really basic document that I've built, and let's have a look over here in the layers panel, and I've got only basically 4 layers here, trying to keep it nice and simple for this tutorial. Let's have a quick look. Very first layer is a little character here, and he has been depatched or cut out using a mask. So here's my mask here, and the cool thing with Photoshop and After Effects is when you are importing from Photoshop to After Effects, you can update things in Photoshop and they will transfer over to After Effects, and this includes doing things like masks. It also includes things like if you want to add bevel and emboss and stroke and stuff like that, particularly to text, it will take it across, but you need to be a little bit cautious of how complicated you make that. A lot of the stuff After Effects does have in there, so trying to think of After Effects as kind of like Photoshop with, you know, motion and animation and that kind of stuff. It doesn't have everything Photoshop's got stylistically wise, but it does have a lot of it, and sometimes it's easier doing in After Effects, so you can actually animate it in there. But it's just a matter of knowing which ones it can. So I've got title here. It's you know, literally is still editable text, and I've got a little bevel and emboss on there as well, and I had a stroke on there as well, but you know, that's not really doing much for me. Maybe if I change the color out for that, so that probably is going to look a little bit better there. Now later on I can go and change this in Photoshop. I can also bring it over to After Effects, but the way we're going to import it in, let's leave it as is. Third image here is a world map, and again I've got the mask on this, and I usually like to leave my mask so in case there is something that doesn't quite work out, if I miss something or I've accidentally hidden something or erased something that I shouldn't have, it's still fully editable. You know, it basically means that I haven't deleted my image, so I can always go back, but I did want that background to be transparent, and hopefully we'll see why later. And then finally I've got my background layer. Now the background layer here, really, you know, just importantly, you'll see when the video comes up, I've put these little curves in here. It is a shape layer, which means that if I do start grabbing hold of that, you can see it's actually got little vector points here. Might be a bit hard to see in the video, and that will also transfer across to After Effects, which is something that's really handy to know. What we're going to be doing, that's not going to be massively important, but you know, for certain projects that's pretty cool to do. Alright, so there it is, 4 simple layers: background, map, the title, and our character layers. Now what you'll notice I've done here is I have labeled these in order. So I've put character 01, title 02, 03, 04. So often when you're bringing stuff into After Effects, it will try and force numeric and alphabetic order. So it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it'll go A, B, C, D, etc. So usually, you know, if you've got a big document, you really want to make sure you put a 0, 1, 0, 2, etc. because if you get up to the number 11, it's going to go, you know, 1, 1, and it can mess up the order. So 0, 1, 0, 2, etc., etc. You know, got less than 100 characters. Just a nice little bit of housekeeping there. Make sure you do save this out. You know where it's available for accessing, so you can find it when you go into After Effects. Alright, let's jump into After Effects. Here we are. After Effects has started up. Now I'm going to jump in and I'm going to create a new composition. So a composition is essentially just, you know, the starting point for what we're going to build, and we can build it with nothing in it, but I actually want to build it from some video footage. So I do have this video footage supplied for you guys, so I'm going to go new composition from footage right here on our opening screen, and you'll need to track it from wherever you've downloaded it to. I've got mine here. It's called cardpress underscore 01B, and it's a QuickTime movie. And I'm going to go down here and just check here. It's got, you know, just a few little options here. Import as, and I'm going to import as footage. So that's just standard. It is a video, so it is footage, so we don't need to do anything there. I'm just going to hit open. Alright, let's have a quick look at the After Effects workspace if you are unfamiliar with it. it is important that we have a look around. It can be a little bit daunting, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty cool. If you do ever get lost in the workspace, so for example, if you accidentally start, pulling things off and you go, oh, I lost my screen, or you accidentally move stuff around and you can't figure out where you are, particularly as a starter offer, very quick way to get everything back is go to Window, Workspace, and you can see I've got here default ticked, and I'm just going to go right down to reset default to save layout. So that again, Window, Workspace, reset default to save layout, and click on that, and that will bring us back to the starting point. Nice and easy if you ever get lost and lose something. Alright, let's have a look at the very top left here. We've got a few tools at the top here. We'll look at those. Most of the time our standard move tool is what we're going to have, V, but let's have a look here. This is our project window, and this is going to tell us where all of our stuff is. And if you see a little icon here with a little triangle, circle, square, this is what is essentially going to be our composition. And if we go below that, you can see that's going to be our video. And as we start bringing assets in, it could be Photoshop files, it could be image, sound, whatever, they will be placed in here. But you can always tell a composition by this icon here. And in fact, that is what we're looking at right here in the image. That's currently what's there. There's the video for it. Now you can make folders for this. There is a folder icon here, and you can, as you get more assets, you can start organizing that. But for now, it's going to be pretty simple, so let's leave that for now. Alright, so if I do double click on a composition, it will open it as a composition, or if you take a layer or a group of layers and drop them into this composition icon, it will create as a composition. But for now, this is open, it's ready to go. Let's have a look. So here's our view panel here. We currently just have a single view panel. Below here we've got our timeline, and we can actually scrub through this and we can see our little video footage here. There it is. It's just a card and a finger coming down and press, and it goes for about 5 seconds. And what we are going to do with this is we're going to take these images here from Photoshop, take them into After Effects and attach them so they look like they are on that card. And then as the animation comes down, press, hand will come up, and those items then will pop off the card into like a hologram or head-up display. So we're going to do a couple of steps for that. Try and follow in order. After Effects has got so many options to it. It is quite easy to get lost. If you do miss a step or something's not going right, do go back, recheck it, see if you can figure it out. Do save often, and do save iterations while you're working. So you may think you're cruising along doing well, and then half an hour down the track you go, oh wow, I made a huge error somewhere along the line. Go back to a prior version, so version 01, 02, save it out incrementally. Alright, let's bring this stuff in. So first of all, I'm going to go File, Import, File. So we actually want to bring files in. You can also drag a file, if you know where it is, into our project window here, but I'm going to do it this way. File, Import, File. Now I know where mine is. It's in my documents for now, and there it is there, card for AFX, export.psd. It's a Photoshop document. That's the one we are just looking at before. Alright, now I don't just want to just go import in, because if we look down here, it's going to import by default as footage, and it's not a video, it's a layered Photoshop file. It's a composition. So I'm going to click on there, and let's have a look. Got composition, retain layer sizes. Now for this particular exercise, I don't want to do that. I actually want it to the layers to be the size of the document, not the size themselves. It sounds a little bit complicated, but trust me on this one, just for this exercise. So I'm going to go into composition, import as composition, awesome, and I'm going to hit open. Alright, another pop-up window is going to come in. Wow, still not there. Alright, couple of options here. Layer options, editable layer styles. Now you might be asking, what is a layer style? I don't want to get too much into this, but if we do have a look at my Photoshop document here again, I do have some layer styles on here. So these are layer styles. You can tell by the FX button. These are, if we look at this text here, it's a bevel, emboss, and a stroke, for example. So do I want those still editable? Well, I don't. It's just going to make more clutter later on. So I'm just going to go merge layer styles into footage. It's also going to make everything run a bit faster. So it's just a little one, but it is going to help us out. And I'm going to hit OK. Alright, over in our project window, we've got a few more things now. So card for AFX export. Now you can see that is actually a composition. Now if I double click on that, it will open it as a composition, and there it is there. And it's just going to be the 4 layers, and they are in order, thank goodness. And nothing's happening because it's just, it's just layers just sitting there. There is no video to that at all. And if we look down at our layers panel here, we can actually see that there's my video that I actually want to make my composition in, and there's the other composition there. So I'm just going to turn that one off. Don't need it right now. Alright, let's see what else we got. Oh, there's a folder, card for AFX. Now this folder will actually have all of the individual Photoshop layers. So if I double click on one of these, it will open it up in its own window. Now I can see I've done a bit of a mess with the mask there. That's okay, I can fix it up later. So if you double click in After Effects, it can be really tricky if you're just starting off. It will open it up in its own footage window. So it can be a little bit scary. Sometimes you just be clicking away and suddenly you go, oh, where's my document? Don't stress it, go to the top here. Okay, there's your composition, it's fine. Over here is just that little image that you open up. So if I click another one, oh look, there it is there, and it's fine. I can just turn that off, no harm, no foul. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these. Now I've put them in order, 1, 0, 1, 0, 2, 3, 3, 4, which is great, and I'm going to drag these and put them above the video here. So you could possibly just drag it in as a folder, or you can shift select those, but there it is there, and it's sitting there. Now I've actually made this slightly bigger than the document. I wanted to have it so if in case I wanted something to be really close to the foreground, then I'm not going to lose much resolution. So I wanted to make my Photoshop document a bit bigger, and you can see from the bounding box here, and if I select each layer individually, you can see the bounding box is based on the size of the Photoshop document. Now I did ask that specifically when we imported it, so alright. Now let's turn the visibility of these guys off. So here's our little view. You can poke them in the eye there. Another little trick to do for that, if you do want to see a single layer by itself, there's this little dot here, and if you hover over that, it's solo, hides all non-solo videos, and if I click that, it will show me just that. If I shift or click on multiple of these, we will start seeing each one by itself. So another little trick there as we get more complex. But for now, what I want to do is I want to get all of those layers, and I want them to fit to this card, this plane. And I'm going to use the background layer for this. So 04 background, let's bring that up. It's a big grey rectangle, that's all there is to it. What I might do before that is let's just scale these guys down a little bit, just so we can see everything in place. So I'm going to shift select those guys, and I'm going to hit the letter S for scale, and there we have our first little option here is scale. You'll notice this little stopwatch here that will allow you to animate it. As soon as you press the stopwatch, it'll place a keyframe, but we're not going to do that yet. All I'm going to do is go over to our little percentage thing here, and I'm going to click and drag that, and because they're all selected, they're all going to scale at the same time. So remember, I've got those. I have not got the background videos selected. I'm just getting these guys to fit a little bit better. If you don't have them all shift selected, you can copy and paste that, but seriously, just shift select and then scale that down there. You can also, using the move tool, just do that, but you've got to be careful you don't stretch like I'm doing now. If you are using this manually, just hold down that shift key while you're doing it, and that will lock in the parameters for that. So keep it horizontal and vertical equal. Alright, let's go to the background. I'm going to turn the other layers off except for the background layer and the video footage, and I want to try get this to fit over the card. Now the big problem I've got at the moment, I'm just going to zoom in, Control plus or Command plus if you're a Mac, What we're going to do here is I can't actually see through this layer to see what's going on behind. And there's a few things I could do for that. I can go, let's select that background. I'm going to go T and bring up opacity. Now, all of this stuff, I'm going to show you another quick trick. Is great way of just as this kind of goes on, you're going to get a lot of drop downs because every time you animate something, you're going to get more and more presets, so it can get really cluttered in here. So a really good trick for sort of minimizing everything down is selecting everything. So if you go Command or Control A for all, and you can see now I've got all layers selected, and you press the letter U for unicorn or unveil or unravel, and what that will do is that will toggle on and off anything that has got an animation on it, or close it. So in this case I've just closed everything down to the minimum. So and then if you want to deselect everything, if I've got everything selected, you can go Command or Control Shift and A to deselect. So Command A or Control A to select all, U to reveal or hide any of the animation stuff. This is going to come in handy later on. Anyway, let's get back to it. Background layer selected. There we go. I can see the bounding box for that. And I'm going to try and just lower the opacity of that. So I'm going to go T for opacity. It's a tricky one to remember, but try to think T for transparency. And what I can do is I can start dragging that down. And you can also type that in manually, but dragging's pretty good. We can get a good feel for that, and we can see the layer. All right, another option. So it's always good to know options because different things will have different things. Blend modes. Now, hopefully you've dealt with blend modes before in After Effects. They work exactly the same in After Effects. Blend modes over here. Now, if you are not seeing this, please do check at the very bottom left corner. There's these tiny little buttons, and if you tick on these are going to bring up some different options. So here we go, and over here I've got the blend mode, and if I set that to something like multiply, you can see I can see through that image, but it's going to make that area a bit darker. So that's actually pretty good. So I'm going to set that to multiply. Always figure out what's going to work. Now I'm going to show you the wrong way of doing it and then the right way in this case for doing it. So alright, After Effects does have the option of 3D. Now in this mode here, this is not the way to do it, so don't go ahead and do this. There's a little cube here. It's this 3D layer, and if I click on that, you can see I can actually turn this layer into a 3D option, and I've got orientation drop down here, and I can start rotating that in the X, Y, and Z, and I can start moving that around. And if I do play around with a lot, there's a very good chance I can actually get it to match the perspective of that, but it's super tricky, and honestly I just don't have the time. So I'm going to make sure that's all undone, and I'm going to stop that from being a 3D layer. Instead, I'm going to use an effect. Now effects, there's an effect panel here, and you can go through these, and there's a whole heap in here. This one's actually in distort, and it's called corner pin, somewhere in here. They are alphabetical, so I can't actually find it. I'm not really looking that hard. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the right. Now this is where you can find everything if you know what you're looking for, if you know the name. Otherwise, effects, there's a bunch in here, and there's a lot of drop downs for that, but I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to effects and presets, and there's a little search option in here. Alright, and I'm going to type in corner pin. So let's just corner, and I've just typed in corn, and there it is there, corner pin. It's under distort, so I was right, it was in there somewhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that and place it over that background layer. There it is there. And what you're going to see now, if we look at this top left panel, which was our project window, which had all our files in, it now has that effect, corner pin. That layer selected, the background layer, corner pin. So this is where all our effects are going to be. As you select on particular layers, if you have this open, that will show you your effect. So if you do get lost, if it does disappear, go to the drop down for that menu. Here it is here. got your basic transformations, but you'll also have effects, and there's corner pin there. So you'll actually see the same stuff here in a lot of cases as you will up here, but often it's easier manipulating up here instead, and you can simply double click on that. I am going to talk a little bit about just intricacies here, but if you do need to get back to your project window, top arrow here, project, and there are all our layers right there. So effects, project. Alright, so if you do get that lost though, remember there's our project window, corner pin. Alright, double click, bang, we're back. Alright, let's talk about what a corner pin does. Anytime you see a stopwatch, it means something can be animated. It's going to create a keyframe in the timeline at that particular point. If you move the timeline with the stopwatch on and you move that attribute, it will animate. Simple as that. So what we're going to do here, there are 4 corner pins: up, left, right, lower, left, right. Move tool. Now if you select this, you can actually get this to move. So I can actually start moving this in. Now if you do lose this, if you accidentally click off this, don't stress it, go back to corner pin, and you can also choose a target for this as well. So upper right, I can go target. Now do zoom in for this. So remember, control or command plus or minus, and get in there close, and zoom. You can also use scroll wheel sometimes as well. And let's see if we can move the other ones in and get a little bit closer and closer. Oh, I've accidentally hit my caps locks. That will happen sometimes, which I've just done again. So just check out for little warnings in that. Sometimes if you click the wrong button, weird stuff will happen, like so. Done and done. Now as your projects, I'm going to talk about some other stuff as well, as your projects get more and more complex with more and more animations and effects, it's important to remember that After Effects has to actually render, has to calculate what it's doing in order for you to see it. So that can get quite heavy, it can be quite time consuming. And if you have a look at our timeline here, you can see there's a little bit of green here, and what that means is that that has been calculated, it's been rendered. So if I hit the space bar, you can see it zipping through, and now it's been properly rendered all the way through. And this is pretty quick because there's not much happening, but later on that can be an issue. So if that starts getting really annoying for you, you can change the resolution for your preview. So at the moment mine's full, but you can drop it to half, third, quarter, or even custom, as you will. I'm going to keep it at full at the moment. Well, if it starts playing up, I'll start getting that. I'm going to hit Z for zoom. Let's get in real close, and V for a move tool, and let's just see if we can get this relatively close. I want to compensate for the bevel, the edge here of the card, because we remember that top image is it's not actually wrapped around the card, it's just literally on the edge, and I think that's reasonably good like that. And I do want to make sure that the first one gets pretty close, like so. Alright, there we have it. Now what I've actually done is I've moved these corners. Now all these corner pins have a new position. If I hit reset, they'll actually go back to their original position, which is why we scaled this down. But for now, let's keep that as is. Alright, so background now has that effect. Let's turn on the other layers. Okay, these guys don't. Now I can go through and try and do the same corner pin effect for all of these individually, but we don't really need to. So what I can do is I can select on corner pin either up here in the effects control or on the actual layer itself. I'm going to swizzle this back up, and I'm going to select that, and what I'm going to do is select those other layers, and I'm going to, before I say that, I forgot to mention that I copied that. So corner pin, I've gone Command or Control C for copy, and then I've gone to the other ones and Command V to paste. And as you can see, because they are all actually technically the same size as the document, they have the same corners, so they are moved the same way. So that's all to do with the way it's been imported. Now if yours has not done that, if they've gone higgledy-piggledy, start again. Remove, delete that previous Photoshop file in, re-import in, make sure you bring in as composition, and do not retain the layer sizes so they'll fit to the document. Now I've actually missed a step, but I haven't gone too far, so let's jump back. Now we are going to be animating this, so I'm going to hit Command Z, Command Z. Let's bring it back, and before I bring these guys back, there is actually something I want to do, and that is to do with the way that we've imported this in. Now I'm going to get to just one character at the moment, the central character here. Now very small, the little target system. So what you'll hopefully be able to see is the bounding box, these little images here. Let's see if we can change the color, pop it out a little bit. What's going to be a good color? This little color icons are great for identifying. Green's going to be a nice contrast, I think, so that might pop out a little bit more. Alright, this little target here, this is the center of this image. So that specifically image, I mean this guy. So that's technically where that center is. Now realistically I don't want that to be in the center, so if I did happen to turn this guy into a 3D layer and start rotating him, I don't want him to rotate around that point necessarily. I'd rather it be more central to where he is. So let's turn off that 3D. Let's look at this tool here. Pan behind anchor point tool. Y is the shortcut. Here it is here. That is going to allow me to grab that little point there, and I'm just going to move that and try and find close to the center there. I don't have to be perfect for this one, but that's pretty good there. Let's make sure we do it for the other ones. Okay, card title, world domination. Great. Alright, let's get that again. So once again, shortcut Y if you haven't got it still selected, which you should, and let's see if we can find the middle of that text. Now we want to make sure we do this before we get too carried away with anything else, so please make sure you do this for your layers. It's just going to save you a bunch of time later on. Alright, this map is okay. I've built this so it actually fits pretty much square, fills out the entire card for a particular reason, and that's center, so I can leave that. Awesome. And the background I'm going to leave as is. I don't need to move that, and it was the size of the document, so the center is the center is the center. Alright, now let's go back. There we go, corner pin for this guy, copy, shift select, command V, hooray, there they are, they've all fitting in there nicely. Beautiful. Cool. Alright, well, that's it. Save your project. Before we do go too crazy with the next couple of steps, do save increments of your project. Now I'm going to show you something very important when it comes to saving in After Effects. Important thing in After Effects to remember is After Effects does not keep, let's go to the project window, it does not keep your assets in the After Effects project that you create. So .aep After Effects, it's just a bunch of data in an After Effects project. It actually needs all of the video footage, sound and image, animation, all that kind of stuff. Anything that you put in there, it needs to carry with it. So if you're going to be going from different computers, which you very well should be, different rooms and saving things from one place to the other, you need to make sure you package everything. I'll show you how to do this. It's super important that you do it. If you do not, and you take it to somewhere or you submit it as an assessment or whatever it is, and you do not have the linked files, it will come out as a test pattern. It simply will not work, and you'll have to relink everything. It's a nightmare. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to save this. So simple one is Command Control S to save, or you go File and Save or Save As. I'm going to do a Save As because I want a copy of this. So I'm going to File Save As. Great, and give it a meaningful name for this. So let's call it, I'm going to call mine card underscore hologram underscore 01. So I do want to give it iterations of it. It's a .aep, that's great. make sure you know where it's saving to. I'm just going to put mine in my documents for now and save it. Should be pretty quick for that part. Alright, now if I simply grab that document, there it is there. It's very small, it's only 204 kilobytes, and I send it off to a client or I send it off to another worker and they open it, they will not get the video, they will not get the images, they won't be linked. So unless you package it properly. So let's make sure we do that right now. So file, dependencies, collect files. Alright, remember that. File, dependencies, collect files. Alright, at this moment I'm just going to collect source files all. I'm only working on one comp, but you can narrow it down. Usually I just leave this as is. It's got a little report and everything. I'm just going to go, great, collect. It's going to ask you where you want that to save it to. I'm going to keep it in my documents for now. You can change it if you need to. Hit save, but try and remember where it is. Alright. And this is actually what it's done. Go to my documents, and right at the very top here, it's created a folder called card_hologram_1 folder. I open that up. There is my After Effects project. Drop down this folder here. Here's my footage. It's got my video footage. It's got another folder with my Photoshop document. It would have anything else that you put in there, sounds, whatever. It'll package it all up, and it'll even have a little report. How cool is that? It tells me what's in there, all the rest of it, file sizes. So really, really cool. And that is the folder that you would send to your client, to another colleague, or if it's required for the assessment. Alright. We are saved. Okay, next step. Let's look at some of the issues that we've got here. What we really want to do is we want to have these images popping up off here like it's a hologram. And if we go through and scrub through our video, we can see we've actually got this finger coming down, pressing on the card, and then lifting up. Now, because these layers are all on top, we are seeing through some of them. I've set the background to blend mode to multiply. If I set that back to normal, we're not going to see that finger at all. It's just literally going to be on top. So how do we fix that? Well, I'm going to set that back to multiply. After Effects has got a fantastic tool. It's called a roto brush, a technique known as rotoscoping, and it will allow you to actually cut out or separate background and foreground areas of an image, or select the parts of an image specifically frame by frame for a video. Now, it can be a little bit tricky, so I'm actually going to do this part for you guys, but do feel free to give it a go. I'm going to start it off for you, and then just for the tweaking and stuff, I'm going to turn off the video and then I'll bring it back in once it's done. But let's have a look how that works. Alright, so what I really want to have is I want to have this finger on top of the card. So here's our layer order. I actually want that on top, but I want to remove the background for that. So if I was to cut out all this background here and the card and that and just leave the finger, then we would actually see all the layers below like that, and we would just see the hand coming down. So we'd have to animate that frame by frame, but After Effects does a pretty good job with that. What we'd then also want to do is we'd still want to keep the background, but rather than separating that, foreground and background separate layers, we're just going to keep the background as is. These layers are going to sit on top, and this layer up here, we're going to remove the background. So let's do this the way properly. So here it is in our correct order, background. I'm going to duplicate that background layer. So I'm going to go Command or Control D to duplicate. You can also go to Edit, Duplicate. There it is there. And let's rename it. Now, renaming in After Effects is a little bit different to Photoshop. In Photoshop, you double click on the name. You double click on this, it will open up in its new window. Instead, what you want to do is press Enter. Oops. Select on the text, press Enter, and then you can rename it. So I'm going to rename this Rotoscope. And let's call it Rotoscope 01. Great. Just so I know what's different. Now if you want, change the color. I'm going to give it a nice pink color at the top just so I can see what it is. And let's drag that to the top. There we go. Alright, so rotoscope up the top. Alright, roto brush. Up the top here, roto brush. The selection for this is Option W, but you can find it up here. If I click and hold, there are two options for it: Option W, roto brush, and Option W, refine edge tool. So first of all, roto brush. Let's jump in with that. And if I click on this, it's you know, not really doing anything, but fortunately a warning comes up. It's going, hey, if you want to use this, you have to double click on the layer to open it in the layer panel. Okay, cool, let's do that. So let's double click, and hooray, we've opened it in its own panel. There's our composition, there's that layer by itself. Great. And now what we can do is roto brush it. Now I'm going to find a good middle position for that, right about there. That should be good. I've got my brush selected, and I'm going to click and start dragging over that. Now green means we are keeping it, like so. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job to start with, but you may need to refine that. Now you can scrub forwards and backwards with this, and it'll start actually calculating this, and it can be quite laborious, which is why I'm going to do a lot of it myself. If you do want to step frame by frame in After Effects rather than just clicking and dragging like I am, you can hit Command or Control and use your arrow keys left and right, and that will step you frame by frame. Now get in real close for this, like so. Now this can be a little bit tricky because I can't see what this looks like. I can't actually see what's being cut out at the moment. So what I'm going to do is do a little trick here. I'm going to go and select this layer, and I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go down and oh my goodness, where is it? There it is, right at the very top. New Viewer, like so, and this will actually create a new view panel for me. I'm just going to zoom in. There's the one on the left. Okay, cool. And then in this one on the right, I'm just going to go back to my composition. And what I should be able to see is that's what I'm rotoscoping, and there is my view. As I said, I am going to be doing this for you guys, but I just wanted to give you a couple of quick hints on how to do that. Select back in here, so now I can see a little bit closer what's going on. So basically you just have to sort of scrub forwards and check for any weird stuff that's going on, and also use the Edge Refine tool. So Edge Refine tool is going to allow me to sort of clean up some of the edges here, and sometimes it's just a little bit of hurting, moving stuff in and out. Want a little bit of blur, and really interesting stuff with this is what we're looking at here is single frames. We're currently looking at nearly 30 frames per second, so every second's got 30 individual frames, and sometimes we get a little bit pedantic on that, but doing high-end stuff, we really want to make sure it looks good. And as you can see, there's some weird stuff going on right there. Just want to make sure it looks good. Alright, I'm going to stop it there, and I'm just going to finish that off. So when you do get the document from me, it'll have the rotoscoped finger in it, like so.